Buenos dias. Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Quint Van Diemen, and I'm a senior principal within the Office of the CISO in AWS Security. I really appreciate you all having me here at your event in your wonderful country. I apologize for my lack of Spanish. I did use a large language model to translate most of my slides, so if the Spanish is wrong, please don't kill me. Hopefully it's reasonably accurate. And I wanted to get into today a little bit of a talk about how AI is specifically going to help us as defenders in the world of cybersecurity. And I wanted to start with perhaps what is maybe a little bit of an overly obvious observation, is that the world has become highly digitized, highly dependent on the information systems that we as companies and governments and industries produce for these citizens. And normally that's a tremendous good, right? It brings tremendous opportunity and advancement and enrichment to folks' lives. But when it goes bad, it goes really bad. And you know, what's interesting about these headlines, when these systems fail for reasons of resiliency or security, we're no longer reading about headlines about the organizations that are suffering these events. We're reading about the impacts to their customers, the citizens of the world who are having their days disrupted, who are stuck in airports, who are having their holidays and travel plans disrupted, who can't function in their daily life. And so, at the risk of it being overly obvious, that is the call. That is the reason we need to be prepared as cyber defenders in this day and age, right? Literally, the world depends on us. So, as it's probably been said already, and I'm sure will be said many times throughout the day, the rise of ChatGPT and other large language models obviously captured the world by storm. And in that excitement, it would have been not to ask how this new technology could be applied to all sorts of domains, most certainly including cybersecurity. And I'll offer to you that I think that's great. Like there's lots of experimentation going on. We've heard lots of examples already about how this is being in use. But I want to assert to you off the bat that while AI is absolutely going to help with cybersecurity, it's the how. It's not the what, right? We're doing all of this work for those citizens of the world, for our organizations. And to the extent that AI helps us do that, that's fantastic. But we must not lose sight of the mission and start doing AI for AI's sake. I'll offer to you that the true constraint, at least as we see it within Amazon, that we've been facing for a long time, and we're going to continue to be facing, is fundamentally the lack of high judgment human capacity. If there's one thing that I think AWS Security has gotten right and has really empowered us to do security at scale, it's that we recognize this very, very early, and we highly optimize the way we approach security around this constraint. You know, and there's lots of ways that's done that we probably won't be able to go into today, but this is what we're solving for when we think about using AI in cybersecurity. Now, what are we after, right? I'm going to offer that we're after speed. It was already mentioned today that the attackers are moving at machine speed. Defenses have got to move at machine speed as well if we have any hope to keep pace. We also, though, like where this intelligence, where I would offer the intelligence really comes in, was also mentioned earlier, is about reduction in false positives, reduction in, when security systems under the banner of security throw up false alerts or, deny access, it brings in lots of friction and frustration that makes doing security harder because the folks that we aim to protect are now frustrated with us. And with speed and intelligence comes autonomy, right? That's maybe where we really want to end up, is to where these systems are moving fast, they're highly accurate, they're highly intelligent, and they're able to act truly with autonomy. I think we've already heard and seen that that is a progression, but that's where we want to get to. Now, when it comes to the defensive application of cybersecurity, I'm going to offer also that I think there's a couple of patterns that we'll see this world largely fit into. Maybe we reverse the automation or animation. That's okay. So we're going to talk first about what I call provable preventions, and we'll sort of explore these as we go on. Next, we'll dive into fully autonomous defenses, right? There's lots to talk about automatically stopping badness, and we'll explore some things there. And then, last but not least, arguably, probably where most folks have started in this space is this human-in-the-loop assistant, the co-pilot. Like, how can we take that under, that human that's in such finite capacity and really accelerate their ability? So we're going to dive into all three of these. And so first, let's dive into that one around provable preventions. And we'll get to what I mean by this in just a second. But what if you could use AI to prove that critical security software was implemented correctly? And it turns out we're doing that today, right? And I don't want these examples are going to be very AWS-centric. That happens to be what I know, but I want them to, hopefully they'll illustrate the point of the art of what's possible, or the areas we're exploring in the application of AI to cybersecurity. So with this, we turn to automated reasoning. Now, my guess is if I did a show of hands, not many people in the room would have heard of automated reasoning. Automated reasoning is relatively obscure by conventional standards domain within AI and machine learning that uses formal mathematical methods and extreme distributed computation to formally verify that software and other domains, but in this case software, is provably correct across every possible input and every possible output that goes miles beyond traditional software testing would be able to do. And so how do we apply this? We apply this a lot within Amazon, but let's take one example, which is we formally proved what's known as Amazon S2N. This is the TLS library that is the code that is executing every time one of our millions of customers issues one of their billions and trillions of requests at our platform each and every day. If this piece of software was to have a vulnerability, the world would have a very, very bad day, right? And so we use this method of AI, this automated reasoning, to prove that that is correct. We know that it's correct. And what does this mean? This means that the world is never going to wake up on a day. I can stand here and tell you that the world is never going to wake up on a day and see where your lives, your businesses, your families have been disrupted because AWS didn't have their TLS library correct, and we've got to patch the whole thing all at once, right? And that, is again, maybe not the type of AI application to cybersecurity that everybody can do. This takes massive investment and is sort of enabled by the scale and the raw size of AWS. But these types of provable preventions where we've stopped there ever being a software vulnerability, latent however it may have been, that can lead to a security event later. And I think that is sort of the gold standard here. There's lots of other areas, if to the degree that it's interesting, that we're applying this methodology. We've got it in our identity and access management evaluation engine, we've got our key management service, and you're going to continue to see lots more from us in this space. Okay, let's next dive into fully autonomous defenses. And so what if AI could continuously detect and block bad actors to protect your environment? I think this is a very reasonable question or assertion that we would all think is true, that is very emblematic of what we hope this technology to be able to do. And to this, I'd like to offer a little bit of an insight into a couple of systems that we've built within AWS. These have been around for a very long time, although we've only recently been a little bit more public about them. And the first is MadPot, right? We like sort of funny names at Amazon for things, right? And MadPot is a fully autonomous, fully automated honeypot service that automatically every day deploys tens of thousands of sensors out into our global infrastructure. These sensors are designed to emulate common software and software stacks that our customers use. And we put them out there, some more vulnerably configured than others, some pretty pristine, and we try to attract the bad actors. And it turns out we attract them quite often. We attract them to the tune of 100 million interactions per day. And when these folks interact with these systems, we let them. We let them upload their malicious software. within carefully guarded constraints, obviously. We let them try to connect to their command and control networks. We try to let them do as much as we can without actually establishing these connections for the purposes of really deeply gathering signals and intelligence about what these bad actors are doing. Now, because of some of the fundamental isolation properties of AWS, we can put these honeypots out there in ways that are both extremely isolated from our customer environments. There's no risk of anything, spreading out. But we can also make it nearly indistinguishable from our real customer workloads. And this makes it very, very hard, if not impossible, for the bad actors to sniff this out. Okay, now enter Sonaris. Sonaris, if I was going to give you an amazingly oversimplified view of what this is, there's the big scary internet, and there's a wire, and there's AWS at the bottom. Sonaris is on that wire. It's transparent. No one even knows it's there. So Sonaris, again, fully autonomously, fully automatedly, processes all of that signals and intelligence that's coming out of MadPot and other sources, and auto-mitigates, blocks all of that bad behavior. Blocks the C2, blocks proxy usage, it blocks the payload deliveries, right? All in line between the internet and AWS in a way that nobody ever really even knew existed before a couple of weeks ago when we started talking about it. So let's talk about some results. What is this type of fully autonomous defense yielding for AWS and our customers? In the last 12 months, and these stats are maybe a few months old, but I think they'll serve the purpose. This system collectively grabbed 98 billion points of intelligence out of these interactions. It assembled those and correlated those into roughly 60 million unique events that were going on, and then blocked 12 million unique distributed denial of service attacks on those customers. And despite the fact that we are blocking everything, we're protecting our customers and our own infrastructure, we take the autonomy all the way to the point of automatically issuing takedown requests down to the ISP providers, the hosting providers, the DNS registrars, et cetera, that these bad actors are using. So we're taking autonomy all the way to the point of hitting the bad guys on their home turf. Maybe some more and maybe relevant, continued relevant impacts of why this matters, right? 2.6 trillion malicious scanning requests that were blocked. 24 billion, scans of S3 that were blocked. That's 80%, just by being on AWS and being behind this system, 80% of traffic that would have otherwise got to a workload doesn't get there because these protections are there. And you might say 80%, wow, I wish it was higher, I wish it was 100%. We're doing that with 99.998% accuracy. That means this thing is so well tuned that it almost never throws a false positive. Nobody even knows it's there, right? And so really great outcomes, I think. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about human in the loop, right? The one where a lot of folks start with. So we just talked about how MadPot and Sonaris are going to block somewhere in the order of 80% of all this badness getting to workloads, but we've still got 20% to deal with. So what if AI could reliably find signals of threats and intelligence through this massive sea of logs and telemetry and guide rapid remediation? That's, again, it's a very sort of standard promise of what we all hope that AI will bring to this world. I'm not going to bore you terribly with a whole bunch of Amazon products, right? But we've got a service known as Amazon Guard that manages the threat detection, uses machine learning, a very advanced, sophisticated version of some models, adds in anomaly detection and integrated threat protection to really yield this sort of result, right? And identify and prioritize the protection of those threats. The system works largely as you'd expect, right? It gathers all sorts of data from an ongoing environment, DNS logs, infrastructure logs, API access logs, all of the things that are very common to a cloud environment. It analyzes those to the tune of 6 trillion data points per hour. So again, just sort of a bonker scale. And then it feeds it through, and I'm glad to have heard the conversation this morning, already start to focus on machine learning and other things beyond sort of generative AI. Machine learning really the workhorse in this space of security, right? And what we're really after is actionable, accurate, and correlated results, right? And from there, now we're always of the mindset where we're trying to take that human being, that fundamentally constrained resource that we've got, take as much of the security workflow as we possibly can and automate it, right? As these defenders go into the workflow, as much of the correlation and enrichment that can be done in an automated way is. And then when they get in, finally, we present them with the most comprehensive view of the situation, and they go into their detective process, right? That's where other parts of, maybe generative AI-based summaries, natural language querying, et cetera, comes into play. So we're really, really focusing their time as much as we possibly can on that, or we're focusing that human dimension of the time. And so with that, I know that was very short and sweet and flew by very quickly. Again, really thank you all for having me here, and look forward to your questions. But just as some key takeaways, right? Let's really focus on using AI to optimize that key constraint around human judgment. Let's make AI the how, not the what, of why we're going about these advancements. And let's focus on speed, autonomy, and intelligence within our security system. So with that, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.